A very good morning to you and welcome to Signature Morning, even this morning once again. Well, it's a good news for all public servants within the Federal Capital Territory and also the federal level. If you are working with the federal government at this point and you received salary that is above what you normally receive, don't be scared. It is just the implementation of the minimum wage as it stands right now. The government deadline for implementation of the minimum wage stands at 29th of September. I think the government has gone ahead to make that implementation possible by going ahead to do it before the deadline. So a lot of civil servants right now in the Federal Capital Territory and across board are a bit scared. So we're telling you at this point, don't be scared. We have memos to tell you that, hey, it is from the federal government. But this is a way of saying, apart from the civil servants, you watching us from any part of the world, you're welcome to Signature Morning. This morning, my name is Godwin Sunday. But today, we want to take the show to another level by looking at some of the rights and privileges that basically patients have even in the hospitals. We've had cases where we've seen patients try to get to the hospital and nurse try to shut them off for saying what they're demanding their response, their rights. But nurses try to override on some of this some of this opinions of them. We've seen that happen occasionally and over again. So we want to talk about if does patients even have rights in Nigeria? The way patients are treated in Nigeria, and do we even have a legal framework that supports our claims and our rights in Nigeria, going by the tort officials and the Nigerian tort laws in Nigeria. But let's look at this issue and have an overview of this issue right now. So with me this morning, I have a barrister who'll be helping us, make sense with this conversation, and he is he's the chairman of the medical committee of Gariki Bar Association, and he's Barrister Agwato. Hope I got that correctly.
Igwato is the name.
Igwato.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a pleasure being here this morning.
All right, Barrister Igwato. I won't make mistake with that.
You can call the first name Ebenezer.
Ebenezer Igwato.
Yes,
I know I was
exactly.
particular about the Igwato,
Okay.
so I wouldn't make mistake with it. I've been trying to rehearse it. I've learned it. And I've tried to pronounce it, but it's fine.
That was a fair attempt. At least you got above 70%, which is an A.
All right. So let's look at this issue of patients' rights in Nigeria. A lot of patients will say that, do we even have rights within the Nigerian medical space? But you are in this field, and you are the chairman of the medical committee of
MBA Gariki branch. Exactly.
So can we say at this point that patients have rights in Nigeria?
Yes, they do.
All right.
There are a plethora of laws that guarantees the right of patients, starting with our constitution, the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended. There's a portion of the constitution we generally refer to as Chapter 4, which is the fundamental human rights. So we should know that the persons we address or call patients are first of all human beings. They are Nigerians, and Chapter 4 of the constitution applies to them. So that means a patient has a right to life. And the Constitution is explicit as to when such rights could be denied. It does not include when person is receiving medical care. So a patient has a right to life. A patient has a right to the respect of the dignity of his person. These are constitutional provisions. A patient has a right to freedom of movement. So when you detain a patient because he has not paid a medical bill, you are actually violating the person's rights to freedom of movement. Or if we bring it to the law of thought, we might say that you are falsely putting the person in prison, and the person can sue. So, but we will get to details. That's constitutional provision, Chapter 4. But the principal act that governs healthcare service delivery in Nigeria is the National Health Act 2014. It also provides for specific rights of the patients, cardinal of which is the right to be treated in emergency situation, or the other way, the right to emergency treatment. Now, this is one of the rights of the patient that is mostly violated by healthcare practitioners or healthcare facilities. Now, Section 20 of the National Health Act says that hospitals in Nigeria should not refuse patient emergency treatment for any reason. That's the law. In fact, the law says should not refuse treatment for any reason. So when we say the doctor on call is not available, that is a reason. The law says such reason is not tenable. When we say, Madam, you need to deposit 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 before we commence treatment, now that is a reason. Unfortunately, the law says you should not deny emergency treatment for any reason. What are examples of emergency? Cardiac arrest is emergency, a woman in labor is emergency, accident is emergency, gunshot wound is emergency, stabs, emergency, because the person is losing blood. Bites, snake bite, or even a dog bite is emergency. Do you understand? So patients who fall under this category and other emergencies should not be denied treatment in emergency situation, because that is the law. Now, the law goes ahead to say in subsection 2 that any healthcare personnel or facility that violates section 1, that denies treatment, the person will be liable to a fine of 100,000 if found liable. So, secondly, the person could go to jail for a minimum of, for a jail term not exceeding 6 months, meaning a healthcare professional could be sent to prison for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, because you refuse to treat a patient in emergency situation. That's a law. Since 2014, it has been in existence in this country. Then, but we have situations where patients do not know these their rights. They go to hospitals rather than treat. The hospitals do what I call dismissal. Just tell the patient off and abandon the patient. Now, referral is a valid medical service, meaning in a case of emergency, there are genuine reasons why a hospital will not be able to treat a patient in emergency. One of which is if the hospital lacks the capacity. If the hospital doesn't have the relevant medical personnel to attend to that case, yes, the least the hospital could do is first aid, stabilize the patient, then refer, write proper referral letter, and send the patient to the appropriate quarters to get treatment. That is not rejection. So when we have a practice where people, the healthcare professional just tell the patients off, but the appropriate thing to do actually is to refer the patient.
All right, Barrister Ebenezer. At this point, looking at Chapter 4, like you've mentioned, of the Constitution, Section 33, 34 of the Nigerian Constitution has given provision for rights to life. Then Chapter 34 has given rights to human dignity. They will now begin to advance in that course. But speaking of human dignity, one will begin to ask at this point, in Nigeria, is human dignity, especially within the medical space, is it selective, or it's supposed to be a generic framework for legal implementations?
Okay. One of the rights a patient has is actually a right to dignified care, meaning that when you are treating a patient, you go beyond the treatment and respect his person, regardless of his social status, regardless of his economic standing in the society, whether he's an illiterate, regardless of his gender, because Section 42 of the Constitution also confers on the patient a right to freedom from discrimination based on sex, based on where he was born, the circumstances surrounding his birth, based on his economic status. So you cannot cherry pick to say, okay, this person is rich, so let's observe this right in his favor. Then this other person doesn't look rich, let us observe this right in breach. So when you talk about right to dignity of the human person, It is firstly a fundamental human right. Now, things like verbal abuse, we receive a lot of complaints from pregnant patients, maternity patients, when they go for antenatal, or even when they are in delivery, the way some nurses talk down on them, abuse them verbally. Verbal abuse is you are insulting the person, you are stripping the person of his sense of humanness, you are devaluing his sense of self-worth. So making unfriendly commentaries, about unpleasant commentaries about the woman and maybe her bedroom activity with her husband, questioning whether they were there, is not proper. So that is a violation. Then some people extend it to physical abuse, which is torture. Hitting the woman inappropriately, slapping, whether deliberate. Do you understand? So there are different levels of violations of these rights. But we are saying firstly that these rights exist. The challenge is, do patients know they have these rights? And I believe that is why this television station brought me here, to explain, to tell Nigerians that firstly, there are laws in existence. Secondly, patients do have rights. Thirdly, you need to know what your rights are before we talk about knowing when it has been breached and how you can seek redress. So if you do not know that you have a right, you won't even, if you do not know what the rights are, you won't know that the right has been breached. You will also not know how to go about seeking redress. Apart from the Constitution, I mentioned the National Health Act.
Yeah, you did.
Now, we also have other laws like Compulsory Treatment and Care for Victims of Gunshot Act 2017. Prior to the coming into existence of that act, we had a practice where gunshot victims were required to first of all go get police reports before they are treated. But that is no longer the position. Since 2017, there is a law, an act of the National Assembly, saying that victims of gunshot should no longer be mandated to get police reports first before treatment. In fact, Section 1 of that act says hospitals in Nigeria, whether public or private, should receive and treat adequately victims of gunshot or persons with gunshot wound. Then subsection 2 says, section 1 says they should receive and treat adequately persons with gunshot wound with or without police reports. Then section 2 now says that they should receive and treat such persons with or without initial deposit of funds. Why would the law say so? Because the cardinal focus of the law, or rather the cardinal focus of medical practice, is to save life. So, if they are seeking to save life, money should not be a barrier to saving life. Now, we must understand that this law has not in any way conferred on anybody the right to free medical treatment. So, wherever there is a right, there is a corresponding responsibility. Excuse me. Meaning that the patient also has the responsibility of paying. The law did not say you should receive free treatment. What the law said is that you should be treated in emergency. So after receiving your treatment, you should pay your medical bill. What the law says is for victims of gunshots, the person is losing blood. You do not know whether the pellets of the bullets has affected any vital organ internally. So it does not make logical sense for somebody who is bleeding to go to police station to get police reports before commencing treatment. The person can lose his life. But the law says after treating, the patient is expected to pay his bill. So, but the challenge hospitals, when we engage with them, the challenge they have is that patients receive treatment and refuse to pay. Then there is also a balance to this. Under Section 11 of the National Health Act, it makes provision for the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. 5% of that money is supposed to be given to hospitals as subvention to cater for emergency treatments like this, because the law has said treat an emergency situation. The hospital needs to use consumable. The hospital needs to use a lot of material, medication to treat, even as little as maybe your cotton wool, your plaster. Let me just talk the elementary. the basics. Those things are bought with money.
Barrister Ebenezer, let's bring this conversation back home. A lot of Nigerians are not even aware of these laws. A lot of Nigerians tend to have a free will when it has to do with laws and implementation, especially within the legal space. We've seen a lot of abuse on the legal space in terms of medical's forefront of the law. So I want to ask at this point, is it that the medical laws are shredded in secrecy in order to favor a particular segment or particular sector of the country? Why are we not having this law being regularized in such a way that everybody in Nigeria should know their medical rights within the legal space? Is this the fault of Nigerian lawyers not doing a lot of sensitization, or the part of the doctors not doing a lot on this space? But let's get your take on this.
Okay. It is neither the responsibility of the lawyer nor the responsibility of the doctor to do that. However, there are NGOs here and there. We also have our NGO, Lawyers Arise for the People Initiative, which basically is strictly a patient's rights and safety advocacy NGO. We have a government agency called National Orientation Agency. It is part of their responsibility to sensitize Nigerians. People are working in that agency. So what it means is that when a new law is passed, they are supposed to sensitize Nigerians. Now, during elections, you hear jingles like do not do vote buying, do not do vote selling, do not involve in election malpractice and all that. Such messages come from the National Orientation Agency and they are commendable. We will soon enter dry season. You will hear campaign jingles against bush burning. Sometimes you hear campaign jingles against vandalization of government properties. Those are commendable efforts. So we are saying that they should also take up the responsibility of sensitizing Nigerians on new laws, particularly laws as important as this that affects health. So let Nigerians know. Meanwhile, the Federal Consumer Protection Commission had taken a good step sometime in 2018 in partnership with the Ministry of Health. That was also a commendable effort to produce the Patient's Bill of Rights. Now, the Patient's Bill of Rights itemized in a simple and easy to understand format the rights of patients. So to that extent, we commend them, but there is more to be done. They listed the right to information, right to informed consent, right to visitation, right to privacy, right to confidentiality, right to clean, safe, and secured healthcare environment, rights to complaint, and a whole lot of other rights are contained in that piece of document, and it is commendable. However, those documents, firstly, it's written in English language, one. Two, it is only circulated. I wouldn't say it's only circulated, it's available to the people who can read and write within our city centers. But does my grandmother in the village, does she have access to that document? My grandmother does not speak English. She speaks Igbo language. What about other aged people? What about the people who are in interior villages? So can we tailor a message in their local languages, telling them, because these laws also it applies in every hospital space. So in our remote villages, we have primary health care centers. And these laws are also applicable in those areas because patients visit primary health care centers. So I'm calling on the government, I'm calling particularly on the National Orientation Agency to take up this challenge of tailoring messages about the rights of patients, about the relevant laws in Nigeria that confer these rights on the patients, in languages our people will understand, and let the message go viral, if I might use that word, so that patients will be properly empowered with knowledge about their rights.
Pastor Ebenezer, thank you for that. There's a legal maxim that says, veritas mihi veritor nisi abscondis. Veritas Dei, Veritor Nisi Abscondis. For the purpose of our viewers, it says truth fears nothing but being hidden. Look, going by this premise of the legal maxim, it also narrowing it down to Nigerian conversation. We can see that a lot of these villages that you've mentioned, a lot of hospitals, there's no uniformity of this law, especially implementations at the grassroots. We've seen a lot of times where these laws are created from the federal government and they almost stay that way. So I'm asking at this point, is NBA, the Nigerian Bar Association, doing anything in this regard to ensure that it's not just representation of people whose rights, legal and medical rights, have been abused? Is the NBA doing something in this regard to ensure that people's rights are not just protected but also guaranteed?
Okay, let me put out a disclaimer first.
All right.
I am a lawyer,
All right.
but I am not an executive of the NBA. I am also not speaking for the Nigerian Bar Association, whether at the national level or at the branch level. I am not the chairman of my branch. I am heading the Medical and Health Law Committee. Having laid that foundation, NBA has a committee that caters for human rights. I just said earlier that patients' rights, part of it, are founded in our Constitution, which is fundamental human rights. So, the NBA has a human rights committee. Whether you are a patient or not a patient, anything that leads to or looks like a violation of human rights, the NBA steps in. It is all over social media that during the last protest, a few persons that were arrested, the Nigerian Bar Association Human Rights Committee stepped in to ensure their release. So NBA is already doing something about human rights generally. Then you narrow it down to medical yes, you narrow it down to medical law. The session on legal practice have a committee also that is on law and medicine. Do you understand? The NBA has 3 sessions. One of the sessions is session on law practice, and they also have a committee that is deeply involved in medical law. So to that extent, the Nigerian Bar Association is already proactive working in this space. So to a reasonable extent, NBA has been doing something in that line. But when you talk about engaging with, in fact, there was 2 conferences ago, 2 years ago, or I think it's 2019 conference in Lagos. There even was a topic on medical law. I'm talking about our annual general conference of the NBA. So the NBA has been making inroads into medical law space. But I wouldn't sit here to say in the tiniest of details. Like I said earlier, I'm not speaking for the NBA either at the national level or at the branch level. No. Thank you very much.
All right. So as a people right now, looking at the medical space in general and hospitals, it's as if the medical laws are tailored towards people within the urban space, and people that are based in the rural area are not well informed about this law. That might just be my opinion on this particular issue. But then, what do you make of this when we have people from the urban area implement medical laws more than people within the rural space? Is it that we're not channeling our informations and orientations policies rightly, or what do you make of this?
I would have preferred if you had maybe a statistical foundation to back up that claim. Do you understand? When the laws are not targeted, when a law is made, the law is made to cover everybody, It's applicable to everybody. The Constitution is not selective. Once you are a Nigerian, the Constitution binds you. If there are obligations under the Constitution, you do those obligations. If there are rights under the Constitution, you are entitled to those rights. It's as of right. Entitlement is not a favor. So when you say medical laws are targeted, I tend to disagree with that. What we need is proper, adequate sensitization. If you recall, when the HIV pandemic was almost at its peak, if I may say so, there were jingles, NGOs sprang up, and okay, let me even use this. 17th of September, just a few weeks ago, has been designated by the World Health Organization as a World Patient Safety Day globally. My committee did an activity to sensitize the world on World Patient Safety Day, to sensitize our environment. We planned, printed banner, did branded our t-shirts, did a road walk to sensitize Nigerians. Last year, we also did the same thing. In fact, we went to Garki Market, printed ICE materials. That's what my branch did, to sensitize Nigerians, to say these are your rights as patients. Because last year the theme of the year was elevating the voice of patients. So we did that. I'm sorry, the theme was engaging patients for patient safety, and the slogan was elevating the voice of patients. So we went to Gariki Market, sensitized people. That's our contribution to spreading the news. This year, the theme was improving diagnosis for patient safety, with the slogan, get it right, make it safe. We did the same thing. Now, the Ministry of Health also did the same thing. Last year, in fact, they have been doing it every year. So the challenge is the reach. You can always do within where you are. I am in Abuja at the moment. My branch is in Abuja at the moment. Our impact starts from our Jerusalem, which is our host, yes, which is Abuja.
Yeah.
So if we have pockets of other organizations, NGOs springing up, because the truth is that the government cannot do it alone. That is the honest truth.
But Barrister Ebediza, at this point, let's even, speaking of statistics, we're based in Abuja, and we are broadcasting live from Abuja. We've seen cases of people in Maraba, which is an outskirts of Abuja. We've seen cases of people in Kuje. We've seen cases of people in Zuba, a case of Gwagwalada. Their primary health care. It is a similar report that we get from all of the squatters in Abuja. Let's not even bring it. Kubwa looks a bit urban, although it's a suburb. But then if you look at the central business district, the conversations around medical care tends to differ within those spaces. Now, these are statistics. These are more of an opinion to support some of the claims when we speak to people as journalists about some of these things. But then I'm saying this to say that at this point, we don't hear a lot of sanctions when medical rights and medical people's rights medically are violated. We don't get to hear these sanctions. It's not been published anywhere. Is it that the medical space and the medical laws, again, are being shredded in secrecy in such a way that we don't get to hear, just like the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, we get to hear that people commit crime A, B, and C, and they're being sanctioned. But within the medical space, we hardly hear that nurse A, B, and C has been sanctioned. Or is there some form of something that we don't know within the media space on the medical field?
To the best of my knowledge, that is not true. The Medical and Dental Council is there. You know, I said something a while ago on this platform, in the course of this interview. People do not know their rights, firstly. So because you don't know your rights, you don't even know when it has been abused. Two, if you know your rights, do you know how to seek legal redress? Do you know how to seek redress at all? There is the administrative redress, there is the professional redress, there is the legal redress. The Medical and Dental Council is there, and take any form of complaint that is brought to them bordering on medical malpractice, medical negligence, patient's rights violation. They treat it with utmost seriousness.
But is it published?
Well, I am not also speaking for Medical and Dental Council, but what I will tell you is that they are in the news, they are in media, they do publish when a trial is completed and I wouldn't call it judgment, is handed down, a sanction is handed down. It's always in the news. About 3 years ago, a professor of medicine, his name was struck off the register. Do you understand? So I think this calls for more investigation from your parts, or maybe you may also have to visit the Nursing and Midwifery Council to hear from them what they have been doing. I'm not speaking for them. You visit the Medical and Dental Council to hear them directly what they have been doing, so that you are properly informed on the issue of publicity. I am not their staff. I am not speaking for them, but my knowledge is that there is no secrecy. I have had the opportunity of observing procedures or proceedings before the Medical and Dental Council Tribunal. So there is no secrecy about punishments. There have been sanctions, and once a trial is completed, they put out the sanction. In fact, after this interview, I will show you some from my phone. After this interview, I will show you some.
I wish we can get that video.
Not a video. Not a video. After this interview, I will show you publications of a sanction that was handed out.
Probably because you are part of the proceedings.
No, I'm not part of. I wasn't part of the tribunal. No, I am not. You're privy to that information. I am not part of the tribunal. I'm not part of the proceedings, but I'm a medical law practitioner. I'm a medical law consultant. My area of practice is medical law, so I have a vested interest in what is happening in the medical environment. Maybe by reason of that, I know. So it might not, another person's interest may not be as mine. Sometimes I go out of my way to find what is happening, what's the latest development. So it is my area. I have some interest in medical law practice. So I need to know what is happening, so that just like you invited me now, I can categorically tell you this is what is. If I didn't find out, I wouldn't know. But it's not, if this one is even circulated, check social media, just do a Google search whether Medical and Dental Council sanction.
No, Medical and Dental Council is on one hand.
Yes.
The Nigerian Nurses and Midwifery Council is on another hand.
Yes.
And most of the time when we talk about rights being violated,
yes,
largely on this conversation, it's not usually the doctors,
okay,
but rather it's even down to even the medical laboratories.
Yes.
From nurses down to medical laboratories, and then the scale keep going down in the organogram of medical practitioners in Nigeria. But then when we hear majority of women speak and they tell you that when we got to the hospital, a nurse was verbally abusing me in the point of giving birth. And she made this complaint, and it has become like a recurring phenomenon and a common decimal factor within the medical space as it stands right now. So that is a known fact. We can confirm that from majority of pregnant women that give birth to within the general hospital and the public hospitals in that space, which is a common knowledge. If we like to use that word for lawyers, it's a common knowledge. But then, when we look at it at this point, we've heard that this nurse, A, B, and C, has been at the forefront of violating women's rights. But we've not heard this sanction. People complain inherently. But we've not heard the murmurs. Okay, the murmurs the whispers are everywhere.
So who do you see?
Okay, so I'm coming to that. We've heard these whispers everywhere, and of course, if you are saying that within the legal space, and they are some of the sections you've cited right now, it means that even the lawmakers, it has filtered into their ears. But we are asking, why is it difficult to get sanctions and those sanctions being published on national dailies?
When you say difficult to get sanction, you don't just you don't pluck sanctions from tree. Sanctions follow complaints. The people who you have mentioned now, can you show me their complaints and to who they complained? There are bodies responsible. So that's why I'm saying our people need enlightenment. We are not denying the fact that there might be pockets of violations here and there. But we are saying that people, if something happens to a lady and the lady comes to talk to you, she has not reported the issue. She only complained to the wrong person. She should go, if it happens with a doctor, she should go to medical and dental and complain. And even going there, do you know the process of laying a complaint? There are procedures. If you're complaining before the Medical and Dental Council, you file your complaint in form of affidavit, meaning you go to court, depose to affidavit facts. These are the things that happened to me. I was treated on this. This is my card number. You share, you state your experience and you file it. At that point, we can say a complaint has been filed. If after filing that complaint, nothing is done, the person can now say, I filed a complaint and they swept it under the carpet. I filed a complaint and nothing was done. At that point, we say, where is the complaint? We have something to follow. But complaints are documentary, sir. Complaints are not verbal. You are talking to an institution. What are they going to rely on? The procedure of Medical and Dental Council is when you file your complaint, an investigative panel investigates. If a prima facie case is established, because they are also doctors, if a prima facie case is established, they take that your complaint and send it to the person you complained against, the doctor you complained against. The doctor will answer to your complaint because it is not one-sided story. The doctor will answer to say, yes, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened. The doctor's response to your complaint will be sent back to you, the complainant, not even your lawyer. Then, after that, a tribunal is constituted and the doctor is tried. But we must also balance this, that it is not every time something goes wrong that the doctor is negligent. It is not every time something goes wrong that the doctor violated the patient's rights. We must come to that realization. I say it whenever I have opportunity to speak on this subject matter. Firstly, the life of man is in God's hand, not in any other person's hand. When you come to medical treatment, there are procedures, lay down procedures. This is step one, you do this, you do this, you do this. So even if you come before the Medical and Dental Council, what they are going to check is, did you follow the procedure? Not did this man die or did not die. If you followed what you are supposed to do and the man died, the doctor is exonerated. But if we now find out that there is a mistake, you jumped a step, you were supposed to do this, you didn't do it, do you understand? Or you were not supposed to do this and you did it, resulting to the man's death, or resulting to a loss of organ, or resulting to any other damage to the person of the patient, then the person will be liable. So it is not in all cases that something goes wrong that people will conclude the doctor or nurse is wrong.
Barrister Ebenezer, this conversation is really getting interesting. I wish we have more time to be able to delve into some of the eggshells rules, that we'll be able to delve into this conversation and be able to elaborate on it. But this is just a part one on this conversation, because we have to bring you back to continue this same issue. A lot of Nigerians need to be enlightened about some of their rights within the medical space. We want to say thank you so much, Barrister Ebenezer Egwuatu.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.
All right, viewers, this is how far we can go this morning. Do remember to follow us on all our social media handle displayed on the screen right now. And you can also join in the conversation by leaving a comment. Let us know what you think about what we've said right now. Of course, we can always do this more elaborately especially picking your opinions from our various social media. And I want to say thank you so much for being with us this morning. Till I come your way again, same time, same station. Remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. From all of us here in the studio, it's bye for now.